Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Money Monday. It's Nakia here. I'm happy to be here for another installment of Money Monday. I'm going to give folks another 2 minutes or so to hop on and then we'll get started. All right. Make sure. Hey, Pat. Welcome to Money Monday. You beat Candy. We'll give folks another minute or so and then we'll get started. Tonight we're talking about credit over cash. And I know that's kind of controversial, but I'll be getting into it. And I talked about credit a few months ago, but I think it's always worth revisiting just to give you a different perspective, give you some more information, so on and so forth. So let's give folks another minute and then we'll go ahead and get started for Money Monday. I hear some weird background noise, so hopefully, I don't know if my neighbor is doing something. I'm not sure, but what can you do? Okay, let's hop right in. So tonight is actually our 38th episode of Money Monday. Pat says, I definitely need this one. I will be calling you about some help with my credit. Okay, yeah, call me and let me know. So tonight we're talking about credit, as I said, credit over cash. And I'm going to flip the thing and say credit is king. Usually we hear cash is king, but tonight credit is king, okay? Unless you're a millionaire. Now, this is not for the rich folks with Hermes's. Hey, Candy, welcome to Money Monday. This is not for the rich folks that has Versace glasses. This is not for those people. This is for the regular people who need help with credit or need a different perspective, okay? So if you don't have credit, like you basically don't have a credit score, give me 1 second. Uh, I'm working on two devices, so I gotta. Okay, back on. Okay, so if you don't have credit, maybe you're starting out. If you're just starting to build your credit, so maybe you have some things on your credit, but you're moving in the right direction. This is for you. Or if you've had credit for years, maybe you've made some mistakes. This is for you as well. So I'm going to cover all three of those. Now, I saw something on social media that I thought was interesting, and this person broke down how credit determines your interest rate. So before I get into that, let me go back. We all know that credit impacts where you live, where you work, your insurance rates, your interest rates that you pay for your car, your house. If you can get a credit card, if you can rent a car, it's impacting a lot of times if you can find a job. All of these things are impacted by your credit score, and that's why credit is king. It can literally being the difference between you getting a newer car or a nicer house or living in a better area or having low interest rates, so on and so forth, which can impact your quality of life. So when we talk about credit, I don't think people understand how important it is. That's why I said tonight, credit is king. So for the example, let's say you're buying a $500,000 house, okay? And you have a 2% interest rate. With a 2% interest rate, principal and interest, you're going to pay about $1,850 a month. With a 3% interest rate, you're going to pay about $2,100. A 4% interest rate, you're going to pay about $2,100 for 3%, and then 2,400 for 4%. Okay. If you have a 5% rate, you're going to pay about 2,700, and if you have a 6% interest rate, you're going to pay about 3,000, $2,998. Okay, so we're talking about 4 points. The difference between a 2% interest rate and a 6% interest rate is over $1,100. It's $1,150. And so that's why you have to really make sure that your credit is up to par, it's in good order, it's in good standing, so on and so forth. It's in, we're going to talk about that tonight. Okay, so let's talk about it. Now, if you're a millionaire, you're going to use credit as a tool. So we always hear that millionaires, they use credit to make more money, right? They might use credit to start a business, to buy properties, to do rehabbing and all this other kind of stuff. If you're not a millionaire, credit is going to be a necessity for you, right? You're not going to, well, you can rent a car, but it's going to be very hard to rent a car. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to have to put up more money up front if you need to stay in a hotel. If you have an emergency, how are you going to cover that emergency? The previous example I just gave you, maybe you're not trying to buy a $500,000 house, but you want a new car, right? Your credit score is going to impact that. So if you're not a millionaire, if you're a regular person, just like I am, it's going to be a necessity for you. Okay. And this is why you need credit. If you can't pay $25,000 cash for a new car, if you can't buy a $300,000 or $100,000 or however much $1,000 house cash outright, if you don't have a 6-month emergency fund, right? 6 months worth of savings in emergency fund. If you don't have enough money to cover a $1,000, a $2,000, a $3,000, a $5,000, a $10,000 emergency, you're going to need credit. You're going to need something that's going to help you bridge that gap. Now, the mistakes that a lot of people use is they use credit for everyday items. They use credit to live. Credit is supposed to be a supplemental thing. It's not supposed to be, you're using your credit card every time you run out of money from your paycheck. If you're using your credit cards to bridge the gap to your next paycheck, we got a problem. Okay, so I want to throw that in there. Now, let's talk about the tips for people who don't have credit. The number one thing, if you don't have credit, is you want to focus on not messing it up. Okay, what does that mean? That means you need to learn about credit, learn as much as you can about credit, right? How your score is calculated, your credit mix. What does that mean? You need to know about how to make financial decisions, right? So not co-signing for people and the importance of not co-signing for people, not putting people, on your apartment or on your car loan. You need to know about how to use it, how to build it, alternative payments, right? If you don't have any credit, what can you use right now to start reporting to the credit bureaus to show that you're a responsible borrower? You need to learn about diversification. So not just having those mall credit cards that they give you when you go to Express or Macy's or whatever store in the mall, but actually having different types of credit lines open. So maybe you have a couple credit cards, maybe you have a car loan, maybe you have a personal loan, so on and so forth. You need to learn about balances and utilization and what that looks like and how utilization impacts your credit score. These are all things that you can learn on Google, right? It's free to do. Just Google it. All about credit. I'm sure if you type about all about credit, 1,000,001 things will pop up for you. You need to learn about mastering your budget. As I said earlier, a lot of people are using credit to bridge the gap to their next paycheck, but that's really not what it should be used for. So that's a part of mastering your budget. You need to start with maybe a secure credit card. Maybe put down $200, $300, $400, $500 so that you can get a credit card in your name and start using that to build your credit. You need to focus on your payments, right? So if you don't have credit, how are you paying for the things that you need? How are you making those utility payments? How are you making those credit card payments? If you have 1 or 2 credit cards, do you have items in collections? Maybe you got a phone, however long ago and you didn't pay the bill. All of those are things that you should be focusing on and learning as you are building your credit. But number one is not messing it up, because it's going to be more difficult to rebuild once you mess it up than it is to start off clean and then make it stronger and make it better. Okay. Let's talk about people who are maybe building credit. So maybe you have credit, maybe you've been, you're starting over, whatever the case may be, but you're building your credit. What you want to focus on when you're building credit is creating that strong foundation. The last thing that you want to do is build your house on a bed of sand. So focus on making it stronger. Okay. So how do you do that? You do that by keeping and getting your balances low. So if you have $1,000 credit card and your credit your credit limit is 1,000 and you're maxed out to 999, you want to focus on getting that down, right? You want to review what's on your credit report. I can't tell you how many things on our credit report is not accurate. It's a name on my credit report right now. It's spelled NAKKIA. Who is that, right? And I've been trying to get them to take it off. So those are things that you have to focus on when you are building your credit, making sure that you don't have those inaccuracies. Or I don't know who Nakia is. I don't know who that person is. Y'all need to take that off of there. You need to maybe think about getting a credit builder loan. So there are loans that you can get and it reports as a loan, but you're actually just making payments on it. A couple of them are things like self-lender, that type of thing. That's going to help you build your credit up, right? That's going to show that you have great utilization. You want to focus on diversification, like I talked about earlier. So making sure that you have a good mix of credit that you have reporting on your card so that your score can be properly calculated, and it can increase your credit score by your utilization and what's being reported out in your credit mix. Focus on your credit habits, right? So like I said, not using credit cards to bridge the gap between your next paycheck, making sure you're really focusing on those habits, paying your bills on time, not maxing out your credit cards, just all of these great things that's going to help you raise your score. You want to focus on making on-time payments. So not paying late, I think that's something that we do a lot and we're taught that, but making sure that you're not paying late because you want it to be strong. Get those balances low, like I said earlier. So if your credit amount that you owe on your credit card is, close to your limit or it's over 30% utilization, get that down. It takes time, right? So you want to give it time. That's another way that your credit score is calculated with your mix of credit. So you're going to have to give it time. Consider getting someone to co-sign for you or being an authorized user. Now, this is only for people who are responsible, okay? If you know you're not responsible, please don't ask anybody to co-sign for you. If you know someone else is not responsible, don't ask them to add you as an authorized user. But these are all things that you can do to help strengthen your credit score. And okay, now let's talk about tips for rebuilding. So you've had credit for a while. Maybe you made some mistakes. We all have. I have. Trump has. Anybody has made mistakes with building their credit, okay? So in addition to doing everything that we just talked about for people who don't have credit or people who are building, these are additional things that you can focus on if you're rebuilding. So the number one thing that you want to do is know what's on your credit report. So pull that credit report so you can see what's on there and focus on the negative items. So if you have misspellings of your name, if you have late payments, delinquencies, collections accounts, focus on those. A lot of people will tell you, don't pay collection accounts. But I don't 100% agree with that unless you're planning on filing for bankruptcy. If you owe it, you owe it, right? And so you want to get that collection account off sooner rather than later. Yes, they fall off after 7 years, but who's trying to wait 7 years for something to fall off your credit report if you can pay it, right? If you can call and negotiate that debt and say, hey, send me a letter. I will pay this. I'll pay 50% of this or 20% or however much if you remove it from my credit report. So focus on getting those negative items resolved, trying to get those late payments removed. A lot of times all it takes is a letter. You send your credit card company a letter and say, hey, I was impacted by COVID-19. This was the issue, whatever it is. Can you remove this off? And most times they will. So focus on those negative items. Get your utilization below 10%. Now, earlier I said 30%, but that's for people who are building. If you need to rebuild, if you are cleaning up some things, you want to get that utilization down as low as possible because your utilization, how much you're actually using in your credit, is a big percentage of how your score is calculated, okay? If you really want to see your credit score move fast, get your utilization under 3%. Mix it up. So, if you don't have any credit cards, try to get your credit card. Try to get a secure credit card. But mix up your credit so that you don't all have negative items or you don't all have car loans or whatever. Focus on those new healthy habits. So habits is what makes you stronger, right? So paying your bills on time, keeping your utilization low, so on and so forth. If you're rebuilding, you want to limit new accounts. This is not the time to be going out and applying for everything you can. I don't care if you can save 10% at TJ Maxx. Okay, I don't care about that. This is not the time to get new accounts. So limit those new accounts because those inquiries, new accounts, that all goes into your credit mix. Report any errors. So we talked about that earlier. Get those errors off. Focus more on payments, right? Not just the minimum. So start doubling up on those payments. Send it 200, 300, 400, 500, whatever it is to try to get those accounts down. And if you're looking at your credit card, start paying off the card that's closest to the limit. So if you have a card with $1,000 limit, and your balance is $999, start with that card. Hey, Sharita, welcome to Money Monday. Okay, another thing that you can do if you're rebuilding is ask for a higher limit. Now, depending on your credit history, if you're in really bad standing, they may not give you a higher limit, but all they can do is say no. Getting a higher limit on your credit cards is going to be easier because it's going to make it appear as if you have more credit available to you. The more credit you have available to you, the higher your score. Okay. Now that doesn't mean start using it, charging up on it. We're not doing that, right? But that's going to help your score go up. Keep those older accounts open. A lot of times, people make us mad. They do whatever and we close those accounts. Keep those older accounts open because the length of your credit history is another way that your score is calculated. And then stop using your credit, right? So stop using your credit cards if you have them and just focus on repayment. And that's going to help you rebuild. That's going to help you build those healthy habits. And that's going to help your score shoot up. Some last minute tips. This is for everybody. As I said earlier, credit cards should be used as a supplement, not as a first resort. It should not be bridging you from paycheck to paycheck. If you're using credit cards to bridge you and not for emergencies, not as something that you can pay off in a month, 2 months, 3 months, then we have a problem. And finally, my final tip is to just start. Okay. It's so many times that we wait to start something. Like it was just the new year. That's how fast time moves. So if you have issues with your credit or you're interested in rebuilding your score, don't wait for income tax. Don't wait for, next year to start. Don't wait for the new year. Start now so that by the time that period rolls around, you can be ready. You're going to look up if you wait and we're going to be in 2025 and you're going to be saying, man, I wish I had started. Okay. So those are my tips. Hopefully these help. You guys know I love micro learning. These short videos, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Really helps you see a different perspective and learn some new tricks. Hopefully you guys will start this week looking at your credit, figuring out what you can do to make it better, make it stronger, so that when you are ready to buy a new house or you do need a new car, you can walk in confidently and not take whatever they give you because you're not ready and you're not prepared. Okay. Hey, Molly, thanks for watching. I love you guys. I will see you next Monday. Have a great week. Bye-bye.